HIFIMAN Susvara is widely regarded as one of the best headphones in the world, if not the best. But there's some question about what Susvara even actually sounds like. If you've heard Susvara on a high-end DAP, it sounds like one thing. It has some of these really great characteristics, but you might be questioning why people say this is the best headphone in the world. Same thing if you've heard it on, a decent amp and DAC setup. Again, it sounds good. It sounds great even, but is this the best or one of the best? And that's the thing. Without a certain level of power, you're really not getting the full potential of the Susvara. So enter the EF1000, built by HIFIMAN specifically for the Susvara, matched and calibrated for its tuning, its sound signature, and its capabilities. This should be the perfect setup. So let's take a closer look. EF1000 arrives in two very large, very heavy boxes. Considering the weight, the boxes were a little beat up when we got them, but the pieces themselves remain well protected because they're packed inside of these immense protective cases. Opening these up makes me feel like I'm James Bond about to receive some amazing new gadget. And it is something amazing in here, just not, say, a rocket launcher for my car. So in the packages, the smaller one contains the power supply, while the larger one has the amp itself, as well as the cables and remote. The cables that connect the two together are quite hefty, designed to provide pure, uninterrupted flow of power. The remote is pretty standard, and it was my preferred method of operating the device. Once you get it all set up, well, this thing is massive. All right, so in terms of getting this thing set up, on the back of the unit, so we have the power supply over here and the amp itself over here. So it comes with these nice big cables for connecting the power. So we've got the DC out over here, and they've got grooves on them. So there's only one specific orientation where that'll work. Screw that one on. Make sure we're secure. Let's output into this one. Again, these are designed so there's only one specific way they can go. And then on the other end, same way. So then for feeding the power supply, we've got your, standard black cable, 3-prong. So we'll go ahead and hook that up. Now in terms of inputs and outputs, you have on the back the terminals for the speaker outputs. So this runs Class A up to 50 watts and Class AB up to 100 at 8 ohms, with the headphone output being 20 watts pure Class A at 35 ohms. So you'll notice here on the input end of things, we've got balanced in, which is switchable for the auxiliary channel between the balanced and the RCAs. And then we've got the 3 RCA, aux, DAC, and CD. As far as I can tell, there's no difference between those. They're just on there for your own simplification there. And so on the remote, it makes it easier to select what you're doing. So if you noticed before, there was a main power switch on the back. And then once that's on, which it's not right now, so that light will turn red when the power's on in the back. Go ahead and press standby and light it up. So that's basically the only thing you'll need to operate on here. And then on this end, there's a single-ended headphone out, 4-pin XLR out for headphones, And then you can select the input. This input button's a tiny bit jumpy, or your output between headphones and speakers. Like I said before, I found the remote to be the best way to operate it. The volume's also pretty smooth, you can notice. And then this is how that operates. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple setup, but underneath this setup is really a just, incredible amount of power and some incredible design and engineering that really goes into delivering this sort of sound. So while it's priced at $15,000, this isn't a device designed with luxury in mind. It was designed solely for performance and sound quality. So, the volume knob was selected not to provide the, buttery smooth response, but to provide the best preservation of the sound of the signal through the volume stage. And just like that, everything in this device exists in service to the sound. Speaking of sound, this is what it all comes down to, right? The build and design makes for an impressive and somewhat imposing piece of equipment. And the specs might have you salivating a little bit. 20 watts of hybrid tube power for headphones, that's pretty crazy. But it's not until you plug it in that you realize how impressive it really is. So, paired with a Susvara and a good DAC, it's really hard to find fault. We tried a few different DACs. We tried the Chord Cutest, tried the Questyle CMA15, and also the Questyle CMA12. We had it plugged in directly with some Astle and Kern DAPs into the RCAs. And probably our favorite combo was the Chord TT2 and M scaler hooked up, that's how we had it at Can Jam, if you guys caught us there. But yeah, so give it a good DAC. We found with just about anything, it sounded amazing. It gives you this massive three-dimensional image with weighty and realistic positioning of instruments and voices. There's excellent definition. Its treble extends, but isn't fatiguing. So there's a great balance there in the treble. When the mids are full and rich, they're loaded with detail and texture and just a realism to the mid-range. And the bass extends what feels like infinitely low, has this thick, weighty, broad slam that also feels natural, never feels like the bass is boosted. But when you play a genre, like EDM or house, where you're expecting bass, you get all the bass that you could want out of that. And then the resolution, the attack, the decay is just absolutely unreal with these incredible micro dynamics, the micro detail, and just reveals if there's nuance in that performance, you can hear it with the Susvara and the EF1000. And it just altogether, whether you're listening to jazz, metal, classical, folk, house, it works with anything you throw at it. And different type genres reveal different aspects of it. From the sort of intimacy that you can get with folk, you almost feel like you're holding the guitar with some recordings, having a conversation with a vocalist a few feet away from your face. But then with classical, it sounds huge, puts you in an amphitheater, surrounded by instruments, but it doesn't lose the sense of personality to it. It doesn't feel like with some headphones or some amps, you get like a sort of artificially extended soundstage. It feels natural and realistic while also feeling big, which is just an incredible achievement there. So this isn't just a headphone amp for the Susvara, though. With any number of other headphones we plugged it into, we really thought it sounded great. Whether that was the Odyssey LCD5, which was probably what we spent the second most time listening to it with outside of the Susvara. Again, we got a lot of that same feeling, the weight, the realism, the ability to sort of shift between these big spaces with this intimate emotional feeling. LCD5 really also wowed with the EF1000. The Meze Empyrean was another notable one because one of the common criticisms of the Empyrean is the way the mid-range is, that there's a color to it that sometimes gets in the way of the presentation of detail. And with the EF1000, I felt like you were getting both the color and the detail in a way that complemented each other and didn't interfere. You didn't lose any detail. You just gained this bit of warmth and emotionality that the Empyrean delivers. And of course, we had to get a little silly. So, I plugged in some stuff like my Grado SR60 and my Audio-Technica M20X. And, with the M20X, I was very careful to, keep the volume down. I didn't want to blow up my drivers in my $30 headphones. Very expensive to replace for me. But it was just the way that the sound stage and the dynamics and the detail appeared with that, which just kind of blew my mind that these headphones were even capable of delivering that level of detail and that kind of presentation. So now, am I advocating that you should buy a $15,000 amp and go get your Koss Porta-Pros to plug into them and really experience the Porta-Pros as they were meant to be experienced? No. But I think there's a point to be made that while this was designed with the Susvara in mind, it really does perform well across the board with just about anything you can throw at it. So yeah, HIFIMAN set out to create a unique, special amp for one of the greatest headphones ever made, and it absolutely succeeds. EF1000 doesn't look like an art piece or a showroom, doesn't feature the latest innovations in technology or ergonomics. There's no touchscreen OLED on the front. It's 100% pure sound. And if you have the Susvara or any other top-of-the-line headphone to plug into it, it can deliver a truly transcendent sonic experience that's a step above anything you've ever heard. But who is this amp even for? $15,000 is several times the price of many high-end amps, great DACs. You could, get yourself a whole set of flagship items and probably still have several $1,000s left over, rather than going with this. And ultimately, this is for, that audiophile who has a collection of top-of-the-line headphones to enjoy this with, who maybe feels like they've reached the end game and wants, one more piece on the pinnacle of that. This is what you're looking for. This EF1000 is one of only 5 that was in the current production run, and we were lucky enough to get our hands on it. We've had it in the office here for listening, and we got to share it with some folks we met at Can Jam, some of our friends up there in New York. And this unit right in front of me is also for sale on our website right now as of the publishing of this video. So reach out if you want to come into the office and demo it if you're in the New Jersey area, or if you'd be interested in purchasing it, just let us know. Again, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more hi-fi personal audio content.